All right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It is the one and only your authentic coach, Gloria Billy Ray, and I'm excited that you guys are here with me today. Look, we're going to be unpacking some real stuff. We're into the new year, and the more I look at it, the more I hear people talk about it. We're just going to talk today about setting expectations, the boundaries that protect your peace, setting expectations. That's right. Want to remind all of you that you can put your comments in the comment section. I'll do my very best to respond and get back to you. But I am happy that you are here. And so my whole thing is about, look, let's jump in, let's unpack this, and let's talk about it. So, again, welcome back to Unpack This. This is a podcast show where we actually talk truth, healing, self worth, and the courage that it takes to walk away from things that no longer serve you. So, if you're in, I'm excited, and we're going to just get into it, right? So, this is all about being unapologetically authentic. That's really and truly what it is. I need you to just be true to who you are and to make sure that you are taking care of you. That is most important. All right. So, with that being said, today's episode is one that is going to challenge you. It's going to liberate you. And for some of you, finally give language to what your spirit has been whispering for a very, very long time. Again, our topic today is setting expectations, the boundaries that protect your peace. Now, here's the truth. Most of the exhaustion many of you feel, most of the resentment that many of you are carrying, most of the disappointments you experience in relationship, it doesn't come from what people do. It comes from what you never said. That's a nugget right there. From what you tolerated, from what you assumed, from what you hoped people would just know. So today we're going to talk about how setting expectations is not controlling. It's not about being cold or selfish. It is about self-respect. That's right, self-respect. Respect yourself, for who you are and what you are. Hey, Miss Carolyn, thank you for being here. Glad to see you. All right. So, we're jumping into why expectation matters. Well, let me just start with this. Boundaries, they are not walls. They are bridges to healthier relationships. But expectations, listen, expectations, they are really the blueprint for how you allow people to treat you. And too many of us, notice I said too many of us, were taught that having expectations, it makes us difficult. That's not true, you guys. That asking for clarity makes us needy. That saying what we want is somehow asking for too much. Look, it's a new day, a new year, and I'm telling you, I'm feeling good. But I want you to hear me clearly today. Unspoken expectations literally lead to unspoken resentment. See, when you don't define what you need, when you don't express what feels respectful to you, what you do is you end up leaving people guessing. And when they fail to meet a standard they never knew existed, you walk around hurt, disappointed, and quite honestly, silently angry. So that's not peace, you guys. That's emotional self-sabotage. That's the real deal. Setting expectations is not about control. It's about alignment. It's about saying, this is what I need in order to feel safe, valued, and respected in this space. And here's what I've come to learn over the years, both personally and professionally. People don't cross boundaries because they are always malicious, all right? But often they cross them because they were never given a map. And when you refuse to draw the lines, others will draw them for you, right? So let's talk about the cost of not setting expectations. Let's talk about that cost because every time you don't speak up, every time you let it slide, every time you tell yourself it's not that serious, you are paying with your peace. Think about that. Just think about that. Let that settle in. So, here's what setting expectations look like in real life. Number one, you say yes when you want to say no. You answer texts immediately, even when you're exhausted. And I know there's so many of you that can relate to that. And that's one of the things that for me, because somebody send you a text, don't mean you need to respond right away. You need to take the moment to stop, to breathe, to reflect. And then, you know, just let it sit there. That's why I said let this settle in with you. You you know what? Who made you the queen of being Johnny on the spot? I got to respond right away. And here's the thing, you allow people to dump their emotional chaos on you, but never ask how you're doing. Any of y'all relate to that? I know that I certainly can, most definitely. You tolerate late arrivals, disrespectful tones, broken commitments, emotional inconsistency. And then guess what? One day, you just wake up and you feel drained. You feel invisible. You feel unappreciated. Can you relate to that? Can y'all relate to that? And here's the deal, you ask yourself, why do I always feel like I give more than I receive? And I know there's a knowing in your belly and you know. But the harder question is, what have you taught people about how to treat you? Because what you allow, you teach. And what you tolerate becomes your standard. See, many of us were conditioned, especially as women, to be accommodating, to be understanding, to be flexible, to be the bigger person. But being a bigger person too often means becoming the smaller self. And I mean, it literally means you shrinking your needs. Did y'all hear me? You're shrinking your needs, dimming your voice, and prioritizing harmony over honesty. But peace that requires your silence, it's not peace, y'all. Hear me when I say that. So let's delve into expectations versus demands. Now, let me clarify something important. Setting expectations is not the same as making demands. You know what? Because the demands say you must do this or else. Whereas an expectation says, this is what I need in order to continue showing up in a healthy way. Boundaries are not about controlling others, but they are about governing yourself. And let me be real clear when I say this. You are not responsible for making people comply. You are responsible for deciding what you will accept. That is emotional maturity. Let me give you an example. A demand sounds like you can't ever cancel plans. An expectation sounds like I value reliability and plans change often. I will stop prioritizing this connection. Y'all know some of them folks like that, right? Oh, they set up things. And you set time aside to meet, to go with them, to do things. And then at the last minute, oh, I forgot I had this appointment. Oh, I forgot. Now, some of them are legitimate, right? But I'm talking about people that you know that this is an ongoing pattern. And you recognize it, you see it, and there's just never the follow through. But listen, a demand says you have to communicate the way I want. An expectation says clear, respectful communication is necessary for me to feel safe in relationships. And by the way, let me just tell you, you can be honest and you're communicating, uh, and you're going to have some people that uh, I'm, I'm, I'm not sure what to expect, or they will do things that in a way is really sabotaging you. And if you haven't experienced it, or maybe you didn't recognize it, I'm here to tell you it's real, it happens, and I've experienced that, right? You got to notice the difference, you guys. So one tries to manage others, and the other defines your standard. And here's the part that some people struggle with. Setting expectations may cause some people to walk away. Okay. But let me tell you this, here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear. Anyone who only benefits from your lack of boundaries, they're going to be uncomfortable when you finally create them. And it's that discomfort, it's not your problem. It is not. That is their reckoning. And if you, once you get this piece down, down into your soul, once you really embrace it, you'll find how much more you're okay with it, right? So let's talk about where expectations show up, where expectations matter most. So let's start with, first of all, in romantic relationships. There are way too many of us that enter into relationships hoping love will figure it out. You assume they'll know how we need to be loved. They'll understand your triggers. They'll sense your limits. But love without clarity, you guys, becomes confusion. If you don't express what respect looks like for you, if you don't define what commitment means to you, if you don't speak about emotional availability, fidelity, communication, and effort, you may never end up in a relationship that feels like companionship without consideration. Expectations setting in love. Now, I'm talking about you setting expectations in love. It's like, I need honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. I always say, give it to me straight, no chaser, right? You say, I need consistency, not intensity followed by silence. I need emotional safety, not emotional chaos. And if those needs are labeled as too much, you are not in the wrong relationship because you want too much. You are in the wrong relationship because you are settling for too little. Okay? Another nugget. In friendships, listen, friendships often fail not because of betrayal, but because of imbalance. One person always initiates, one person always listens, one person always shows up. I'm putting it myself, right? And the other simply receives. Setting expectations in friendship sounds like this: I value mutual effort. I can't always be the strong one. I need space when I'm overwhelmed. and I'll communicate when I'm ready. If someone disappears when you ask for reciprocity, that wasn't friendship, that was just convenience, y'all. That's the real deal. Now let's talk about setting expectations in families. Well, many of us deal with this, and this is where this becomes that little tender sore spot, because many of us were raised to believe that you don't set boundaries with family. You just endure. You sacrifice. You put up with that crap. But I'm here to tell you, let me be very clear, crystal clear. Blood does not give anyone permission to drain you. Hear me when I say that. Setting expectations with family, this is what it sounds like. I won't engage in conversations that are disrespectful, yelling, screaming, over talking. Not going to happen, right? I will not accept guilt as a form of communication. I love you, but guess what? I'm going to also protect my mental health. Something that many of us need to learn. See, you really and truly are. You're allowed to love people and still catch this another nugget, and still limit their access to you. You get that? Now, many of you are dealing in work and professional spaces. And that's always an interesting space to me. At work, lack of expectations look like this: overworking, being the go to for everything, accepting these vague roles and unclear boundaries, and then feeling burnt out, unappreciated, overlooked, and notwithstanding somebody taking credit for your hard work. But professional expectations, when you set them, this is what it looks like or sounds like. My time deserves respect. My role deserves clarity. My labor deserves recognition. That's the long and short of it. See, you teach people how to value you by what you consistently accept. And why setting expectations feel hard? Let's talk about this. Why is it so difficult for so many people to set expectations? One, because it's not that you don't know what you need, it's that you're afraid of what might happen if you say it. You are afraid of being misunderstood, being rejected, being labeled that difficult person, or losing connection. And the deeper truth, really, you guys, is that most of us learned early that love was conditional, that approval had to be earned. I've talked about that in earlier segments, that peace comes from being agreeable. So when you set expectations, now your nervous system says, be careful, you might lose them. But I'm going to say, so what? I want to reframe something for you today. You're not losing people when you set boundaries. You are revealing, catch this, who was never aligned with your healing. Anyone who only stayed when you were silent, they were never committed to your wholeness. It took me a long time to figure that out. And some of it, in some relationships, I've had to shift and recognize, oh my goodness, this is real, right? Somebody not committed to your wholeness, say no. So how do you set boundaries? What do how do you actually go about doing this? Well, I can offer 3 principles. The first one is to be clear, not harsh. Hear me? You don't need to be aggressive. You need to articulate. I feel disrespected when plans change last minute. I need more notice going forward. That's not being rude. You're just being honest, right? Another, maybe another nugget is to speak early, not after you're resentful. And I've had to work through that. Boundaries that are expressed, you know, you have to ask yourself, okay, I'm expressing boundaries after I've had this emotional buildup. And it often comes out sharp. And when you say it, you know, you, sometimes things just come out, right? And you're trying to protect the relationship and protect your peace. That's why you just take a moment, take time. You got to be willing to enforce what you say, though. If you say it, any expectation without follow through, it just becomes nothing but a suggestion. And people see it as that. I've had people say, well, you never told me that. You mentioned it, but it wasn't set as an expectation. But if you say, I won't tolerate being spoken to this way, um, and then you continue engaging when it happens, then guess what? You just negated what you just said. So it's not about you being kind. You're actually betraying yourself. And think about that for a moment, right? So here's what begins to change when you start setting expectations, in my opinion. You feel lighter. This was my aha moment, was you stop over explaining and you stop people pleasing. You begin to trust yourself. Now, when you set expectations, you're setting your boundaries. Now, some relationships are going to deepen. There are going to be some people that are going to say, right on, 2 thumbs up, whatever, you know, because those are people who value you, right? They'll adjust. And there are going to be some people that are going to fall off. They're going to fade. But here's the key thing. What remains is peace. And peace isn't loud, you guys. You know that. Peace isn't dramatic. It's not chaotic. Peace just feels like, hey, I don't have any more knots in my stomach. You're not second guessing your worth. You're not rehearsing conversations in your head. Peace just feels like alignment. Alignment. So take a moment and reflect. Just reflect for a moment. I'm pose these questions to you. Where in your life are you tolerating what you no longer agree with? Who benefits from your silence? And what would change if you finally said, this is what I need in order to stay connected? Again, I have to tell you, you're not asking for too much. You're asking for what is necessary. And there is a difference, right? So, when we think about this, and just go with me on this, when we think about this, I want to leave you with this. Setting expectation is not about building walls, you guys. It's about building a life where your peace is not negotiable. You don't owe anyone access to the parts of you that are healing. You do not have to keep showing up where you are not respected. And you don't have to explain why your peace matters. And somebody don't get it, that's on them. You matter. That's why we're unpacking this. I want you to know what you're unpacking is you matter. By setting boundaries, you realize your energy matters. Your boundaries matter. Your voice matters. And every time you choose clarity over comfort, you choose yourself. This is how you show up. This is how you stop shrinking yourself. This is how you stop settling. For me, it's about rising up. This is how you rise. Again, you're not doing it in anger, not bitterness, but in alignment. In alignment. And can I just need to reiterate why unpacking this conversation matters. It interrupts patterns. Most people, they stay stuck because they don't want better, because they've normalized what no longer serves them. And naming that is the first act of freedom. It restores your voice. When you say what you've been minimizing, excusing, swallowing, you move from silence to self-respect. That's not small. That's power, you guys. It reclaims your agency. You stop reacting to life and start choosing. Boundaries, decisions, and direction becomes intentional, not emotional. It protects your future. So the clarity you gain shapes what you tolerate, what you build, and what you walk away from. This is how you prevent repeating what already has hurt you. It honors your worth. You, again, I keep saying this, you are not too much for wanting more, and you are not wrong for wanting peace. This conversation affirms that your needs, your time, and energy matters. If you are here today, if you're watching this, it's because something in you is ready to rise. Not louder, not harder, clearer. And I can tell you, clarity changes everything. So if this episode of Unpack This spoke to you, share it with someone who needs permission to protect their peace. And if you are ready to go deeper in your journey of self-worth, boundaries, and healing, hey, connect with me, Gloria Bailey Ray. I'm the Authentic Coach. Until next time, this is the Authentic Coach reminding you, hear me when I say this, that you are allowed to choose yourself and to do it without apology. And you owe no one, no explanations, nothing, you guys. So until this time next week, I always enjoy you being here with me. Be sure and tell someone who tells someone. And again, thank you guys for being here with me. I am so appreciative of you. So until next week, this time, peace, blessings, and joy. Reclaim your boundaries. All right, I'm out.